Former President Jacob Zuma is taking journalist Karyn and prosecutor Billy Downer to court. He accuses them of allegedly leaking and publishing his medical records. Zuma says that they violated the eNCA Act, and we've got our senior reporter Dasen Thathiah, who is on the story and joins us for an update. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Dasen. So, watching the court case proceedings earlier on this morning, the defence for Karyn indicating that this is in fact an urgent matter and it's imperative that the court address the issue on an urgent basis.
That's right, Rafiwa. That was the application that was brought before the court this morning, and that preceded the criminal private prosecution case that is taking place at the moment. So that particular hearing, the application brought by Karyn was very short, and it was stood down. So at this point, it seems like those issues of that urgent application for both Maughan and Downer will happen only in December. And the parties now, by agreement, are saying that they would like this matter, the criminal case, to come back in February, because that is hinged on that application that is to be brought by Karyn as well as Billy Downer. And you know that Karyn in this case is stating that this is an abuse of the court process and that this matter has simply been brought to court to hinder her from performing her work. She has been reporting on this matter for about 20 years now, and as a result of that, that's stated in the court papers that she filed, that this is all really just a spectacle that is being created. And interestingly, one of the arguments that they're making is that the former president has been unable to prove exactly what harm has come to him from the publishing of that court note, which was the doctor's note rather, which was attached to those court papers that she had published on News 24, her employer's website. If we looked outside today, Rafiwa, we were just looking at some of the supporters that had gathered outside in support of the former president. The numbers are not as big or not as high as they normally are. You normally see this area full, but there were a few notable figures that were supporting the former president today. Chief among them is the PEC in KZN, the ANC's PEC. So the chairperson, Soniso Duma, was here, as well as other notable figures. They're here to reiterate their support, but they haven't granted us any interviews yet. They're saying that they're waiting for the proceedings to be finalized. Before they do that, it's believed that the former president will also be addressing some of those supporters outside court as soon as all of this is wrapped up.
So we've just discussed the defence's arguments that they had put forward in this case, Dasen. What are we hearing from the counsel representing the president?
Well, they say that, interestingly enough, this case is still getting underway, but what we've already established is that the former president has put down 500,000 rand to secure this private prosecution. And what they've always been saying thus far is that that doctor's note was not meant to be in the public domain because it has brought harm to the former president. You'll remember in the initial papers, the former president was also saying that he was trying to shield his family, shield people from knowing exactly the seriousness of the illness that he had, which was labeled as a traumatic injury. That is what the doctor's note had specified. But the argument here now from Karyn is that this was not meant to be, it's not revealing, it's not a medical document. All it simply states is that he had undergone a traumatic injury but didn't get into any specific details. I think a lot of the detail of this case will come out as it proceeds. Right now it seems to be very administrative. It's actually setting down the dates and getting to a point where the application by Karyn and Billy Downer is dealt with in December, and ultimately this private criminal prosecution gets to sit in February next year.
And then finally, and just for clarification, Dasen, with this note, there are arguments here that say not only did the note not reveal any specifics about his ailment, what it may have been, so it was not a medical record per se, but also it was published after it had become a public document within the courts. So those are the two important things that I suppose Karyn and her legal defense team are hanging on here. And then another argument here, Dasen, which is quite important, is media freedom and journalists being able to practice without being barred in any form like we're seeing with this case. What do you think?
And that's true. That's why Karyn Maughan's employers are here to support her. The editor of News 24, Adrian Basson, is also here. SANEF has also been involved in this case because what they're stating at this point is that it goes beyond the merits of just the case and dealing with that issue of the doctor's note. But what they're saying is that we're now talking about a former president that intends to prosecute a journalist, they say, for simply doing her work. So there are lots of implications here when you look beyond just what's happening in the courtroom. It also speaks to, for example, the politics that play here and also the implications for media freedom. So it's certainly going to be a very interesting one to watch.